David, MSOM 601, Problem Solving Critical Thinking, end of week 3. This week, for my recap of the week, I want to do something a little bit differently, um, just to kind of give you a peek under the tent here on my thought process on developing not just a course, but a lesson. Um, I'm kind of contra on some of these things, and you probably are aware of that for those of you who've had me in class before. Uh, Sometimes professors, I think, take the easy way out in courses and they find a textbook, and let's say the textbook has 21 chapters and it's a 7-week course, so they have you read three chapters a week, and then they ask you a discussion question and maybe a paper, sometimes a quiz or something like that. And so I'm not sure that's the most effective way to do things. So for this course, what I wanted you to see is how I developed the thought process for each week. Each week stands on its own, obviously. There is a textbook for this course, but we don't spend a heck of a lot of time in there. If we do, it's probably just in the short answer. But let's go to week 3 here, and I want to describe for you how I how I put this week together. So, the week 3 description here talks about rhetoric and different rhetorical devices. And as I was thinking about putting this particular lesson together, the whole idea of rhetoric, I think, is so important in the critical thinking area because it deals with definitions, it deals with understanding, it deals with listening, it deals with asking questions, and then the rhetoric happens through the communication, whether it's verbal, whether it's written. And so rhetoric plays a big role in critical thinking, in my view. And so that was the lesson idea, okay? And so on the read and study this week, you had some textbook readings on rhetoric. There was a lecture in there. And as I began to look at different types of learning assets that I could put to the rhetoric topic, this video that you all saw just came to the forefront of my mind because it talked about, how can you stop talking and start listening? And it had very good examples of it, and I just love the hippo example in that one because it's an example of someone coming in thinking they had all the great solutions without asking anyone any questions or listening to them at all. And so this is where that video fit in for me. This is where the Socratic method of asking questions fit in for me as well. So those were the learning assets that I pulled together for this particular discussion on rhetoric. Now, as far as a deliverable is concerned, rhetoric, you need clarity, right? I mean, we talked about clarity a bit last week, and when definitive words are used, it really impedes clarity because what you're saying will override sometimes based upon the words that you use, the words that you mean. And so, when you use the word many or all, or sometimes they're implied, there's an implied many or all. When you just state, Democrats are, Republicans are, then when you state that, you're implying all. And so that's why I wanted to have a discussion here on definitive words because, as I mentioned, I use these things all the time and I shouldn't, right? And so I always catch myself, always. I sometimes catch myself saying these. See, I did it in front of you guys, right? And so definitive words I thought happened to be a really good element of this as well. And then the short answer just went through the different elements of the rhetorical situation, the different rhetoric devices, and so on. So I just wanted to make sure that you had a firm understanding of that. And then in the journal this week, part of the discovery process on problem solving, as I wrote in your journal responses this week, is the ability to sit back and analyze before you start acting. And that was the whole point behind the Einstein quote: is he's analyzing for the majority of the time before any action is taken. And so, to me, this whole lesson on rhetoric was a good one because it dealt with words and other elements. And so, what I tried to do was go through the what, why, how with you. The short answer here was more of the what. So, I asked you to provide that level of information. Both in the journal entry and the discussions this week, there was a why component on why this is important, why is it a challenge. And then the how component of it is how are you going to take this information and actually make it actionable as you go forward. So, just a little key on how I pull these things together. Each week that when I develop a course at 7 weeks, I have a global understanding of what I want the key objectives and takeaways to be. But each week builds on that. And so this week was on rhetoric, and the key points were that words are important, accurate words are important, and questioning and listening are the ways to get to results today. All right. Hopefully that was interesting for you. Take care.